won it all. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. He struck him out. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires. Swing and a drive. Deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by DodgerBlue.com's Blake Williams. Blake, always nice to start the season off with a win. The Dodgers win 8-2 over the Diamondbacks. We're going to break it all down. We'll talk player of the game. We'll talk Julio Urias' performance. We'll talk a little bit about tomorrow's matchup. But before we get any further, Blake, opening day, the Giants lose, the Astros lose. I believe the Padres lost. It's pretty much a perfect day if you're a Dodger fan. They did. The Padres lost 7-2. I mean, what more could you want than everything going right on opening day?
Yeah, it was great. Maybe a 10-2 win instead of an 8-2 win would be great, but can't complain too much when you win like that.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers give up 2 runs. Julio Urias struggles in the first inning, gives up a run in the first, a run in the second, and then from then on out, only 4 hits in the game for the Diamondbacks. Urias settled into it. The Dodgers, Will Smith came up huge a bunch of times. James Outman might ultimately be the story of this one. But let's get into kind of how this one unfolded. Again, thanks for those joining us live on Facebook or on Twitter, those joining us on YouTube as well. And if you're listening to this after the fact, thank you very much for joining us as part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. But I mentioned it. The Dodgers do not get off to the start that they're looking for. Julio Urias strikes out the first batter, doesn't throw any balls. You're like, okay, Julio's dialed in. We're ready to go. He hits Ketel Marte, gives up a single to Gurriel, a single to Walker, and all of a sudden it's 1-0 before Longoria grounds into a double play. In the top of the second, we get a leadoff double, a fly out, a sac fly, and a ground out. What did you make of Julio, at least to start this game? Obviously, he ends up settling down. This is a guy, though, who has kind of struggled at the beginning of starts in the past. Not exactly sharp from Julio coming out of the gate.
Yeah, it wasn't what you necessarily want to see, but at the same time, like you said, he is a bit of a slow starter, and he was able to limit the damage. It wasn't like he gave up 3 or 4 runs. So he gave up 2 in 2 innings. And when you're not at your best, like that's all you can ask for from a pitcher. So he did his job. He kept them in the game, and then he was able to settle in and pitch well.
Yeah, Dodgers continue to be unable to get to Zach Gallen through the first 3 innings. Julio gets a clean inning in the top of the third after an error and a double play. And then that's when the Dodgers offense picked things up, was in the bottom of the third. And it all started with James Outman and a walk. And look, I'm not here to tell you that this was the moment that changed the entire complexion of the game. Obviously, I like James Outman. We're going to get to him. But am I overemphasizing this walk? Because that was a huge at-bat. He took a bunch of good pitches, and he gets the Dodgers offense down 2-0 with a runner on base to start the inning. Again, I'm not saying it's the reason they won, but for a team up until that point that I believe, aside from a Will Smith 2-out double in the first, had not even reached base, he takes a walk against a guy who's dealing, and all of a sudden the Dodgers offense kind of gets going.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're overemphasizing it. Leadoff walks are a great way to start a rally for a team. You kind of get the pitcher out of the rhythm a little bit. You get someone on base, and you just have to string some hits together after that. So they were able to do that, and it worked out. So yeah, Outman set the table, and it's about what you want to see from him.
Rojas follows up with a ground rule double. Mookie Betts strikes out. Freddie Freeman lines out. And then Blake, my guy, Will Smith, with 2 outs and runners on second and third, singles to right. Outman scores, Rojas scores, and all of a sudden the game is tied at 2 for a Dodgers offense that, as much we're going to talk about all the runs, Freddie Freeman had a couple of hits, but aside from Will Smith, it wasn't the main guys who end up getting it done for the Dodgers. Nobody scores until the bottom of the 5th, still 2-2 at that point. Rojas fouls out, Mookie walks, Freddie Freeman singles, and then guess who it is again? Will Smith with an RBI single to right, JD Martinez with an RBI single to right, David Peralta with an RBI single to left, 5-2 Dodgers. And that was kind of the moment in the bottom of the 5th where it felt like, okay, the Dodgers have this thing under control. It's not just Will Smith. Now it's JD Martinez. It's David Peralta. And I'm feeling a lot better about myself after that one.
Yeah, I mean, the offense all kind of contributed. Like the guys at the bottom of the order, like you said, it wasn't the guys at the top of the order as much, besides for Will Smith. And you need those kind of games if you're going to win a lot in the regular season. Like, you're not going to have your Mookie and Freddie Freeman carrying the offense every night. You're going to need other guys to contribute. And I'd say coming into the season, like, those role players were more of the question marks around the team, and how their offense was going to do is going to be based a lot on them. So for them to come through in the first game, it was nice to see.
Yep, absolutely. Dodgers tack on in the 6th. Miguel Vargas walks James Outman opposite field home run to make the lead 7-2. And then Will Smith was with the sacrifice fly in the 8th to once again score James Outman. We keep saying the same names over and over again. It's Will Smith and it's James Outman to make it 8-2 in the bottom of the 8th. Offensively, you look up and down the box score for the Dodgers, and for the most part, all very good. Freddie Freeman, 2 for 4. Will Smith, 3 for 4. JD Martinez with the hit, Peralta with 2 hits, Outman with 2 hits, Rojas with 2 hits. But then the flip side to all of this, Blake, is the guys who didn't get a hit. Mookie Betts, not a great performance from him, 0 for 4. But Max Muncie's the guy everybody's going to be talking about, 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. You mentioned it. It's one thing if the guys just aren't getting it done. Those two, we're not overreacting here, but those two, the at-bat quality maybe was a little bit concerning.
Yeah, it was concerning, but it's the first game. I mean, players are going to have off nights. I'm not putting too much stock into any of this yet. Zach Gallen's a really good pitcher, and then I know they also struggled a bit versus the relievers, but I mean, it's going to happen. It's baseball. Hitting is really hard, and they're both talented players. So, I mean, if we're going like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks into this, then maybe it starts to become more of a story. But right now, it's just a bad game, and the rest of the team picked them up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get to a couple questions and thoughts from folks, let's talk pitching real quick. Julio Urias, it's funny. If you were to ask me without looking at his box score to grade how he pitched tonight, I would say, yeah, he was okay. Like, I didn't think he was great. Obviously struggled early on. You look at the box score, 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned, no walks, 6 strikeouts. That's a really good start. I mean, a 3 ERA, like just 4 hits, no walks, strikeout an inning. Do you feel that discrepancy? Like, does that box score look better than what you felt like you watched Julio do tonight?
I feel like it, but I think there's some bias from the first 2 innings he had. He was kind of in trouble all the time in those first 2 innings, and then he settled down right when the Dodgers offense was picking up. So that's kind of like we put the focus on the offense. So I feel like Julio has a lot of those games though, where like he's just kind of cruising the whole game, and you don't notice how well he's pitching until you see the end, and it's like, oh wow, he was amazing.
Yeah. Any sense from you? I mean, it was his first opening day start. Obviously, opening days are weird for a number of reasons. In part, I imagine the rhythm is way thrown off on an opening day because you've got all this pregame stuff where all the guys are coming out and getting introduced. And then you've got the 3 Cy Young Award winners, Valenzuela, Gagne, and Hershiser thrown out at first pitch. It looked like a couple of them got lost on their way to the mound. Do you factor that in, or is it just, you know what, Julio's not always super sharp to start games and then he settles in? Like, do you make anything of that it's opening day, his first start?
I mean, there's probably a little more nerves. It's a special opportunity for him. He was saying it's an honor, I'm pretty sure. So I'm sure he had a little more nerves in there, but I don't think it was too much as him just being a slow starter. Like, that's just what he does pretty often. He'll take a while to build up, and that's what we saw again today.
Yeah, Bickford, a scoreless perfect inning. Shelby Miller, a scoreless perfect inning. Yency Almonte, a scoreless perfect inning. 2 strikeouts for those 3 guys. And so, again, the Diamondbacks finished this game with just 4 hits. They had 2 of those hits in the first inning. They had 1 of those hits in the second inning. So it just goes to show you how good Julio really was. The 4th hit came in the 6th inning. So basically from the second inning on, they had 2 hits, no walks. Pretty dominant stuff from the Dodgers pitching team there. Pitching team, the whole Dodgers team, but their pitching team in specifically. Let's get to some thoughts and some questions from the chat. Give me we kind of always ask, like, what was the headline? What was the takeaway for you? We're going to get to player of the game, so save that one a little bit. But let's get to some things from the chat. Voice of Reason wants to know what happened to the playback. We were there. Playback.tv/DodgerBlue1958. We were in there watching the game. So that will not be on YouTube. So apologies if that was not made clear. You've got to go to a different website, playback.tv/DodgerBlue1958. We will be back tomorrow. So that will be every Tuesday and every Friday. Special occasion here for opening night. But Tuesdays and Fridays, playback.tv/DodgerBlue1958. will be there. There'll be live post games on Tuesdays and Fridays as well. So Voice of Reason, sorry we missed you on that one. Craig says, great start for James Outman. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you were skeptical of the hype about James Outman coming into this one game is not going to solve all your problems, but really, really good stuff there. Michael Carrillo says, James Outman, Rookie of the Year. Place your bets now. There you go. Lady Prosecutor says, I still hate the new rules. How could you hate? I mean, of all nights to hate the new rules, this game was flying for the first 6.5 innings, Blake.
I think that's why people don't like it. Like, people want to, the real fans, not real fans, but like, you know what I mean? Like the hardcore fans. Yeah, they want to see like 3 hour more baseball. Like when you're saying you're cutting off an hour of the game you can watch, it's a little disappointing for some people, and I get it.
Yeah, I don't get it. I apologize, Lady Prosecutor. I'm sorry you missed it. It was fantastic. It was everything you want in a baseball game, just crammed into 25 minutes of dead time less. So I love that. Andrew McDaniel says the pitching staff was the storyline. They were really good in this one. Nando says James Outman is my wife's boyfriend. So just try and do the mental gymnastics on that one there. Roy Estrada says Outman muscles, 4 thumbs up. There you go. O'Shea says the Madres lost. Today was a good day. The Astros lost. The Padres lost. The Giants lost. It was a great day. Great day to be a Dodger. And yes, Code Red coming tomorrow. Blake, let's get to player of the game. It feels like there's 2 real obvious guys staring us in the face. I will let you take
3.
3. You gonna include Julio in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
6 innings, 2 runs. I think you got to include him in there.
Okay, so I'll give you 2.5 options for the player of the game. I think Julio is a comfortable 3rd in this category. That's just me, though. I shouldn't be answering the question for you. So I apologize, Blake. Give me your player of the game.
It's got to be Will Smith. I mean, he came in with almost all the RBIs, at least for most of the game. I don't know what he ended up finishing with, but it was a lot. 4. Yeah. So half the offense right there from Will Smith. I mean, that's got to be player of the game right there.
Yeah, you look to Jason says Will Smith easily. Roy says Smith saved the day with a hot bat. Roberto says Smith. Matt says Will. Yeah, that 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs. I think when those hits came matters as well. A bunch of them, it felt like we're with 2 outs. Obviously, the double early on. So I think for Smith to put this one away. Second place to me, clearly James Outman. He finishes 2 for 3 with a home run. Just fantastic all the way around. I guess they didn't credit him for the double on his last one, at least according to the box score I'm looking at. But 2 for 3, 3 runs, 2 RBIs, and a walk as well for James Outman. I will add, I pointed this out on the playback, some really good defense from James Outman as well. Like nothing diving catch, but there was a play early on. I believe it was a sacrifice fly in the second inning, maybe. I can't remember if it was the first or second inning, but it was a ball that had an expected batting average of almost 500, and James Outman got a great jump on it, great speed, made the catch look easy. So, that stuff doesn't show up in the box score. Maybe the Dodgers had him positioned perfectly, and it wasn't as hard of a play I'm making it out to be. But I think James Outman is a comfortable second here. And then the bronze medal, I agree with you. Julio Urias, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, just 4 base runners allowed and 6 strikeouts. I agree with your assessment. Do you find yourself doing that a lot? Like when you see a guy struggle to begin with, it's kind of hard to erase that from your memory versus if he gave you 4 dominant innings and then a run in the 5th and the run in the 6th. Like, does that feel better if the runs come later?
I think so. Like, there's the thing about first impressions matter, and I think it does matter in baseball too. Like, if Muncie was 0 for 4 and then had like a nice double or something to bring in a run, I think people would still be talking about the 0 for 4 before that. So it just kind of works that way for a lot of players and just anything in general.
How do you feel about this? Will Smith was slapping hits all over the field. You got to chuckle.
I mean, are we still doing those jokes? Like, sure, I guess. Yeah.
Well, we could. Well, you're right. We'll just stick with the janitor. Blake agrees. We'll just stick with calling him the janitor. You know what he did a lot of today, Blake? He came up with men on base, and you know what he did? He cleaned it up. Clean up on aisle Will was the call all night tonight, Blake, and you can't even deny it.
I can't deny that, but I'm still not going with the janitor as a nickname.
Okay. Well, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. I can't deny it. So we'll take that as well. Any other observations or things that stood out to you tonight? I mean, we talked about Max Muncy. We talked about Mookie Betts. You said on playback, you're not concerned about either of those guys. It's one game. It's a fluke. Moving on.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say it's totally a fluke with Muncie.
Yeah.
For Mookie, like, I think everyone's going to be a little more level-headed about that. But Muncie's stats last year weren't as great. He was like an average player. I think he finished around 105 weighted runs created plus or something for the year. So there's some concern, but it's still just one game. He looked good in spring training. He's back healthy. I wouldn't worry too much about it yet.
Yeah, I said it's easy to just sort of blanket statement one game, don't overreact. I do think if you're Max Muncy coming off the season he came off of and you look this bad, like this wasn't just an 0 for 5 where you have, maybe a hard line out, a couple ground outs and a couple strikeouts. This was 5 strikeouts and none of there's not really a great looking strikeout, but I mean, the fifth one was like a ball in the dirt where it's like, it just felt like he was in his own head. So worried about getting the Olympic rings, 5 strikeouts. That's what we went with. Google tells me it's Olympic rings or platinum sombrero. Blake and I took a vote. We vote Olympic rings is what we're going to go with here. So Muncie gets the Olympic rings. That piece was concerning to me. Mookie Betts 0 for 4, did draw a walk, but did have 3 strikeouts as well. Gallen had him fooled. And I joked beforehand to Matt Peralta. I said, look, if I was going to place a bet, it was going to be Mookie Betts to get a hit because he was the only Dodger who had seen Zach Gallen 7 or more times coming into this. And he had like a 380 batting average. Everybody else was sub 150. So good thing I didn't place that bet, Blake, because that one would have been a loser.
Yeah, you can't predict baseball.
Yeah. Peralta was on there telling us he could predict baseball. He says it's the most predictable, Blake. So we got to get the two of you in a room and maybe the Lakers guy can explain a couple things about to you and I about how predictable baseball is. I did want to mention JD Martinez, David Peralta, a couple guys who made their Dodgers debut. Obviously, both of them back-to-back RBI hits. I don't think any of us want to see JD Martinez trying to go first to third on a single line to left field. That was not a great decision. But did you like what you see from either of those guys?
Yeah, it's nice to see JD get a hit there. He kind of struggled up to that point, so it's always good to see them do their job there and bring in a run. He was kind of signed to be a run producer. And then David Peralta picking up 2 hits against a righty, like that's great to see because that's also what he was signed to do. Like he's going to start versus righties, and you don't need him to carry the offense, but you want to see him be productive, and he was able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. People in the chat mentioning Bickford looking good tonight, Shelby Miller looking good, Yency Almonte looking good. Again, you kind of mentioned it. You're like, it's the Diamondbacks, maybe temper expectations a little bit when you see these guys coming in. But hey, 3 perfect innings for a bullpen that Blake, I haven't gotten your reaction. My bold prediction, one of my bold predictions was that the Dodgers bullpen finishes with a top 3 ERA in Major League Baseball. Do you agree with my prediction? I'll give you a sample size of already seeing 3 perfect innings from this group. I feel like you're cheating a little bit, but I'll allow you to still respond.
I think I would have agreed with it before I saw that too, because they have so many options in their bullpen. Like they have a lot of guys out right now, but once people start to get healthy, their group is just really solid. Like they don't have that set elite closer that everyone loves to have, but you just have like 10 players who can all pitch well. And I think that allows you to have a really good group.
Yeah. Lady Prosecutor and I were disagreeing earlier. She says she agrees here that we're going to have a top 3. I joked that I was kind of cheating because I think they've had a top 2. They finished second in ERA for like 3 or 4 seasons in a row. So it's not exactly a hot take. I see some questions in the chat. So let's get to a couple of these. And then if people have more questions, they can throw them in there as well. I saw one in here about Trace Thompson. Let me see. Did I miss it? Something about Trace Thompson. And where is Trace? BC wants to know. Trace Thompson, Blake struggled pretty badly throughout spring training. Take what you will about that. He struggled in the World Baseball Classic too. So if you care more about the World Baseball Classic and think that matters more, he wasn't any good there. James Outman has a night like tonight. And we know the expectation coming in was that he's not going to play against lefties. He's only going to hit against righties. He goes 2 for 3 tonight with a home run, a single, basically a double. If James Outman goes 2 for 4 again tomorrow, and then the third game there's a lefty, I don't know when the first lefty is. I mean, like, are they really going to bench this guy for Trace Thompson in center field?
I think so, at least early. Dave has already said, like, that's what it's going to be. Outman's going to get the majority of playing time in center versus righties, and Taylor and Thompson are going to play versus lefties. So I think Dave's going to keep his word and give them a shot to prove themselves. Now, if Trace starts to struggle a bit or continue struggling and Outman keeps hitting, then you can kind of have that conversation. But for the first few weeks, we're going to see Trace and Taylor playing versus lefties. and then a mix of Outman and Hayward and Peralta playing versus righties.
Yeah. Another question here. Craig wants to know, is Chris Taylor, a guy who we did not see tonight, a guy who has become a platoon player against lefties, is Chris Taylor a trade candidate? I would, the contract is going to be an issue if you want to trade him. I'm not sure there's any team out there that wants to pay him what he's due. I also think he probably is more valuable to the Dodgers than someone else. So my gut here is that I don't see any scenario where Chris Taylor gets traded. You agree with that?
Yeah, I don't see it either. Like you said, he's more valuable to the Dodgers than he is to another team. His contract isn't too crazy. It's like 13 or 15 million a year or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So it's not too hard for the Dodgers to just eat that if they needed to. But I just think he's going to stay around. He's a good clubhouse guy. He can play everywhere. He's their backup shortstop now. You'd need another shortstop if you were to trade him. And he's their platoon left fielder. So you just have a lot of holes to fill if you do end up moving him.
The backup shortstop's already on the roster, Blake. Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is your. What are you talking about? Yeah, Miguel Rojas is the backup to Mookie Betts. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay. Yeah,
Andres,
I'm not endorsing that idea.
Oh, come on. Andres, Almonte will be our closer. Agree or disagree here, Blake?
I'm going to disagree, mainly because they're not going to have a set closer. And I think if someone does take the lead, it's going to be Phillips or Hudson when he's back.
Yeah. No, I agree. I look, Jeff, you could call me the guy who looks way too much into anything. 8-2 in Yency Almonte's pitching. That's like, I don't know. It's not awesome if you're a big Yency Almonte guy. I mean, I know it's the ninth inning, but that felt like a spot to just burn the guys that are at the bottom of your pecking order. And Bickford fits that role. You could argue Shelby Miller fits that role. Andre Jackson, maybe you're saving in case you need a long man. So the fact that Yency came in, I don't know. Am I reading too far into that, Blake?
Probably. I would guess it's more just he needed to pitch soon. I don't remember when he last pitched in spring training.
Okay.
But I don't think it was on their last game. So could have just been a thing where Dave was like, he's going to need to pitch today. So we're going to get him in there no matter what.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Let's see if we got any other questions. BC says, LOL, D-backs losing 90 to 100 games. I've got the Diamondbacks finishing third. So I do not have them losing 90 to 100 games personally. I'm not saying they're awesome, but I think they're probably hovering around 500.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to lose 90 to 100, maybe like 70 to 80 there, but they have some good young talent, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. Roy says, bring up Gavin Stone. Blake's going to agree quickly with that one. We need a Blake agreeing with somebody in the chat, so I'll just throw this one up for the folks.
I do agree he should be the fifth starter at this point. He was much better than Grove in spring training, and he has more upside.
The thing I will say about that is they did not face the same level of competition. Grove was starting games. Stone was pitching like the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th at the back end of spring training. So I'm not disagreeing with you entirely. I do think it's worth pointing out that Grove, like when Grove pitched against the Diamondbacks and we were down there, it was like the A team. Corbin Carroll was batting leadoff in that game versus Stone throwing against, whoever's left in the 7th inning of a game towards the end of March. So I think that's worth mentioning.
It is a fair point, but also if you look at their minor league track records, like Stone is just a better player.
That's fair. I'm not disagreeing with Stone over Grove, but I just think on the spring training thing, we got to look at that. Let's see. Ferguson could be a good closer too. BC says, Jason asks, do you think Hudson will be as good as he was before?
I want to say yes, because it was a leg injury and not an arm injury, so it's not like as big of a rehab process. But at the same time, I think he's 36 now, and you just kind of never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's been really good every time he's been healthy, but the age, at some point, that stops being the case. I think he'll be very good. I don't know if I would pencil him into dominant reliever that we've seen maybe of late, but the Dodgers, obviously, in bringing him back, seem to have some confidence in his ability, and obviously a little bump in the road injury-wise wasn't what they were hoping for, but absolutely. Lewis asks, what are your thoughts on JD Martinez? We kind of talked about this, had a nice little RBI single, 1 for 4 with an RBI. Okay, you did your job. Like, we'd like to see more than a higher than a 250 batting average from a guy who's going to be an all-time DH, but he came up with the runner on, got an RBI. So no complaints from me on JD Martinez tonight. Lady Prosecutor, were we still expecting Trinan back later this year? Blake, are you expecting Trinan back this year?
I personally am not, but Trinan has been really optimistic that he's going to be back, and he's pretty much guaranteed it. So we'll see. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to make any claims about his health, but it's just a lot to come back from for him.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think when you look at the Dodgers bullpen, as good as Trinan is, like, we don't know what Alex Reyes is going to look like. We don't know what Fire Eisen's going to look like. But if the Dodgers bullpen can remain mostly healthy and start to get some of these guys back, like Reyes, and Fire Eisen, then all of us Hudson as well. I mean, those three guys slotting into this bullpen. Obviously, you can't assume everybody's going to stay healthy, but there was kind of two open spots in the bullpen. And that's three guys I just mentioned, and none of them are named Trinan, and none of them are the Andrew Friedman DFA special that we're going to get at some point this offseason as well. So I think the Dodgers can be extra patient with Blake Trinan, more patient than they were able to be last year. Speaking of patience, how about that for a transition? David Sabatini asks, the rookies looked very patient tonight, Jeff. Don't you agree? Blake, I mentioned it. That the walk that Outman took was a pretty remarkable walk. I mean, there was some filthy changeups that he let drop just below the zone. Vargas ends up with 2 walks. Outman ends up with 1 walk. Those two guys in, 8 at-bats end up reaching 5 times. From the 7 and 8 hitters and 2 guys, rookies, playing in Dodger Stadium for the first time in James Outman's case, I mean, the moment did not look too big for them.
Yeah, that's something the Dodgers do really well. They prepare their rookies to make sure they're ready to come in and start from day one.
Yeah.
Like, you see a lot of teams be more aggressive with their rookies, and then they kind of come up and struggle a bit. The Dodgers are really patient with their players, and they make sure they have their minds right and that their approach is going to be good, and they're not going to be overwhelmed when they're making their debut. So you kind of see that with most of their players that come up. We saw it with Seager a lot. Bellinger was good when he came up. It's just a pretty consistent trend that they're able to do.
Yeah. Brandon, Diamondbacks fan, chiming in. Outman is a problem. Torrey is and has continued to kill our team. His lineup was baffling, to say the least. I can't pretend to know enough about the Diamondbacks to have a strong opinion about the lineup.
They had Corbin Carroll and Moreno batting 7th and 8th, which is enough to make me want to fire a manager if I was a fan of them.
Yeah.
So.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Those two guys were 0 for 5 tonight. So, everybody sucked, though. So Marte, Gurriel, Walker, 2, 3, and 4, the 3 had a hits, and then Ahmed had a double down in the 6th spot. Jason asks, gentlemen. Wow, that's a kind term for you and I, Blake. I don't know if we deserve to be called gentlemen, but I'm not going to complain. How many at-bats till Muncie concerns you? I mean, he's just assuming he's terrible in every at-bat from here until infinity. Come on, Jason.
If he's still struggling through like 100, I'll be concerned. I think I'm usually pretty patient with players.
100 at-bats?
Yeah.
Wow.
I believe in his talent. Like, I don't think he just forgot how to hit in the same year he got hurt. I think there's a lot of correlation there, and with him being healthy, I just believe in him getting back to form.
Yeah, I have said, like, if you struggle last year, then the leash is going to be shorter this year. I was a believer in Muncie. As I've said, I drafted him on my fantasy team. Like, he was a guy that I would be betting on for a bounce back. Tonight was concerning. It was really, really bad looking. And Muncie typically is a guy that, like, when Chris Taylor struggles, it typically looks bad. Max Muncie can tend to put together good at bats, even if he's struggling. Tonight was not one of those nights. So Jaime asking the same question. Thoughts on Muncie? Some concern. I'm not going to give him 100 at bats like Blake is.
That's still only like 3 weeks a game. So, like, that's 25 games there pretty much if he's getting 4 at bats a game. I think 3 weeks is pretty fair leash there.
Okay. There you go. Agree to disagree. We'll see. Let's see. Tyler says, my guess is Hudson takes the closer role by the end of the year. You and I both agree. We think Hudson gets the most saves this year for the Dodgers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of negative Muncie stuff. Here we go. Peter from the stadium. Good game. Just got back. The Outman home run lit up the stadium. Outman's looking great. So shout out to Peter for living really close to Dodger Stadium if he's already out of the parking lot and back to his house. So appreciate you watching and chiming in, Peter. I can only imagine how excited that is. I mean, home runs in general, but for a guy in his first game, good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, man, we got Noah Syndergaard. Come on, folks. Let's save the Noah Syndergaard questions for another day. Nando wants to know, will Ohtani be a Dodger this year? This was one of my bold predictions, was the answer to this question is no.
December is this year. So
there you go. This calendar year, Blake's saying yes.
I think if not this year, it'll be next year.
Hallelujah says at the trade deadline. I don't
I
know.
I don't think that one because Artie Moreno is not going to trade him like no matter what.
Thunderpants. If Rojas can hit 280 and 2 to 90 and plays usual defense, that would be huge. That would be more than huge. That would be, put the Dodgers hitting coaches in the freaking Hall of Fame if Miguel Rojas hits 290 this year. Yeah, here we go. Jason says even 270 would make him a great player. Look, 240 would be great for Miguel Rojas. I mean, we don't need to set the bar any higher than it needs. Mia Marie says, I met James Outman in spring training, and he is a great human player. We agree, Blake. You and I got a chance to interview him. You were filming. He took a picture with his rock for you. 10 out of 10, dude. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I will say, by the way, all the Dodgers that we interact with, and I'll specifically say the young guys because those are the guys I tend to interact with. This isn't a negative on older guys. But like Pepio has been great to us. Michael Grove has been great to us. Bobby Miller was great to us. So all the young guys have been great. Dodgers are doing something there as well. Michael, what did you guys think of the new lights at Dodger Stadium? We didn't get to see them live, but based on Matt Moreno, who was there, it sounds like they're pretty cool, I guess. It sounds like there's a lot. They're happening a lot of the time. Like the Diamondbacks brought in a reliever in the 5th inning and they had like the Darth Vader music playing, which, 5th inning of game 1 might be a little aggressive for that spot, but I think it's a cool deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of them. Like sometimes some of the stuff they're doing seem kind of pointless to me, but I wasn't there live. It's hard to say before I can actually experience them in person. So I'll hold off on any real hot takes until I see them.
Okay, Dong says the new LED stadium lights look good. So there you go. You'll be there tomorrow for the drone show in
Yep.
place of fireworks. This is better for the environment, is that right?
That's what they've been saying. I haven't done any research on that or not an environmental specialist, but I assume they got to be. And it's probably better for all the neighbors around too that they don't have fireworks going off constantly. I know my animals would hate living out there if that was the case. So,
Well, and I know they don't do the fireworks after a certain time. I wonder if drone shows are fair game at any time of night.
yeah, probably they don't make as much noise
Don't have to worry
or
about it
any
in
noise.
2023, though, Blake. We got 2-hour and 30-minute games.
Yeah.
Anthony, what do you think about our starting rotation and who will be the 5? First question, Blake. How do you feel about the Dodgers starting rotation as of today?
They're a good group. They're going to perform well. I think that's always a given with the Dodgers. Their starting pitching is going to be good. They have Kershaw and Julio at the top of it. So that's better than most teams already. And they have enough talent that they can get through with the rest of it, even if some guys struggle or deal with injuries. So I'm pretty confident in them as a group.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially if Gonsolin gets healthy, then I feel even better about it. And that would be your 5, right? So you've got Urias and Kershaw kind of at the top. You've got May and Gonsolin. I would put them in the 3-4 spot in that order. And then Syndergaard 5, some combination of Stone probably midway through the year is number 6, Pepio 7, Grove 8. Is that kind of how you would rank those guys?
Yeah, probably. And then if we throw Miller in there, probably 7 or 8.
Yeah, depending on what time of year we're talking based on Bobby Miller. I know Gavin Stone was starting opening night for Oklahoma City Dodgers tonight in place of Michael Grove, who was expected to start but was a surprise. And we could talk about that briefly. That was kind of the breaking news from the Dodgers today. Pepio had been announced as making the opening day roster or expected to make the opening day roster, and then was placed on the injured list. Michael Grove ends up getting his spot. Pepio, undetermined amount of time, I believe, out with an oblique injury. Is that right, Blake?
Yeah, left oblique injury. They haven't given any update on how long or anything. Dave might have said it earlier, but I might have missed it. So,
yeah. Thunderpants, is Gonsolin back before the end of April? I believe they're expecting him back in a couple of weeks. He's already throwing, right?
Yeah, they're hoping end of April. He basically has to go through a whole spring training build-up again, so about a month worth of time building up, and we'll see how he does from there.
Yeah, SMH asked, is Outman the everyday center fielder? I said he should be. Neither of us expect him to actually be, at least not yet.
Yeah, he should be, but they're going to platoon at least to start.
Bowman Super Collector, will Bueller be back this year?
Bueller hasn't ruled it out when we talked to him last year about it, but I highly doubt it. He had Tommy John surgery in, what was it, August, I think. So It's pretty unlikely, especially for a second one. There's a lot for him to overcome to do that.
Lewis asked about Julio not going out for the 7th. Not a huge pitch count for him. The Dodgers said before the game they were going to manage him. Just 79 pitches. Any insight into what was going on there with Julio?
I'm guessing his pitch limit was about 85 to 90. So there's just kind of no point. Like they had the game pretty much sealed up at that point. Their bullpen's good. You can give them some work. There's just no point to pushing him in that kind of game on the first game of the season.
Scott Gearman says, no need to push Julio. Plus, Dave said they were going to be light on his workload today. Your thoughts, Blake?
I think we should get that guy out of this chat. I don't know what he's doing in here.
Yeah,
but
geez, it's a good-looking guy, though. You see that picture right there?
yeah, I think I know the photographer who took that picture, actually.
Wow, Blake Williams photography showing up on DodgerHeads. I love it. Yeah, let's get Gearman's face off of here. He can come back. He can join. He'll be here on Tuesday. He's doing Playback Tuesday with me, and he'll be on the live post-game show as well. Let's go do one last question here. Craig, will Austin Barnes catch tomorrow?
Probably.
Oh my gosh. Good Lord. If they do that, what are we doing? No, stop it.
Oh, no, wait. May's tomorrow. So
May's
no.
tomorrow. So
no.
we're good.
So
good.
it's going to be Barnes the next day.
Pathetic. JD Martinez benched?
He should be, but I don't think that's going to happen. They're going to give Smith the day off, I think.
There you go. Yes, Dong talking about, yes, playback. Playback is awesome. Again, playback.tv/DodgerBlue1958. I'll throw it up on the screen. But it's a great deal. It's a live watch party is kind of the deal. So here's the URL, playback.tv/DodgerBlue1958. It's a live watch party. So as long as you've got access to a login that will allow you to watch the Dodgers game, whether it's MLB, MLB.tv, whether it's Spectrum, whatever it might be, as long as you've got access, you log into there. All of us get to watch the exact same stream at the exact same time. And then you'll have myself and Scott on Tuesdays, and then me and sort of a rotating crew of people on Fridays talking through the game, kind of like a podcast that you're listening to while the game is going on. There's a live chat. It's a great deal. We had it tonight. I think we had 35 folks in there. So we're working on building it up, but we'd love to have you. So playback.tv, DodgerBlue1958. You can actually go to that website right now. You can join the room. You can set up an account. So do that so that you can get in ahead of time for tomorrow. Blake, before we go here, let's talk a little bit about tomorrow's matchup. Dustin May on the mound for the Dodgers, Merrill Kelly on the mound for the Diamondbacks. Dustin May, another guy that, speaking of Dodger players that maybe there's hope for a bounce back, hope for, he was good when he pitched, but obviously was dealing with an injury, says he feels great. How high are you on Dustin May this season?
I mean, the sky's the limit for him if he's healthy. His stuff is great. He's just, before he got hurt, he was looking like he was turning into an ace. So if he can get back to that form, like, you might have a third ace there. I think we have to temper expectations a little bit, especially his first full year back from surgery. But he has all the talent in the world, and it'll be fun to see what he can do this year.
Yeah. Daniel, bold prediction was that Dustin May is an all-star. How do you feel about that?
It wouldn't shock me. There are a lot of great pitchers in the NL, and he has to beat two of the pitchers on his own team that might be better. So you're asking a lot, but he has all the talent. He needs to do it.
That was exactly my response. I was like, it's just going to be hard because Julio and Clayton Kershaw, and if you throw in a guy like Evan Phillips, who I think is more on people's radar this year than he has been, it just becomes a lot of other Dodgers he's competing with. On the other hand, Merrill Kelly, guy who's a workhorse, 200 innings last year, 3.37 ERA. Expected ERA and FIP both 3.62, 3.65, so right in that range. Not a big strikeout guy, little less than 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but a guy who had success last season. Another right-handed pitcher, which is good news for the Dodgers because that kind of plays into the best lineup, I would say, that they have. So anything to worry about for you with Merrill Kelly on the mound?
I think you have to mention he's a silver medal winner for Team USA, Merrill Kelly, but he's just a prototypical innings eater. Like, he probably isn't going to dominate all game. He's not going to put up ace stats, but he's a really solid pitcher, and it will be a challenge for the Dodgers, but he is someone they can beat and get to early in the game.
Yeah, let's see how the Dodgers have fared against him historically. Max Muncie. So here you go. Maybe a bounce back for Max Muncie. 11 for 26 against Kelly in his career. Mookie Betts, 7 for 23 with 3 home runs. A lot of big numbers from the Dodgers. I mean, guys that have 7 at-bats or more against him. Muncie's hitting 423, Taylor 270, Mookie 304, Will Smith 318, Freddie 375, Rojas 375, Jason Hayward 143. So not as great for Jason Hayward there. So probably not going to be the day we see Jason Hayward tomorrow. Would you expect the same lineup? I mean, they score 8 runs today another righty on the mound, just go back to the same group, right?
I think so. It wouldn't shock me if Dave wants to get Hayward a game in here. I'm not sure who's pitching the third game for the Diamondbacks, but if it is a righty, that might be the day for Hayward. But I don't think if it's a lefty, I think we might see Hayward tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. You know who it is on, I was telling Matt, he was debating whether or not he was going to go on Saturday. It's Clayton Kershaw against my least favorite Major League Baseball player in the whole league. Sadison Bumgarner, lefty.
Yeah, so it wouldn't shock me if he wants to get Hayward some at-bats tomorrow, but I would run out the same lineup. I'm not saying they should get Hayward an at-bat tomorrow, but
Blake, if I have to
wouldn't
hop
shock
on
me.
a playback and Jason Hayward is starting in center field tomorrow with James Outman on the bench, it's not going to go well.
I think it would be over Peralta if they do it. But
That's fine.
or you could get Vargas out of the lineup for a day and put Mookie at second and get Hayward out there.
Stop this. All
I
of
think
this
that's how
madness.
they're going to get Vargas stays off and Hayward in the lineup. So
Yeah, I'm like, just don't touch it. We don't need Jason Hayward so badly in the lineup. Okay, jeez Louise. All right, well, there you go. Dodgers win 8-2. Blake, again, I mean, I keep repeating myself. The Astros lose, the Giants lose, the Padres lose, the Dodgers win. I mean, what a night. What a night for the Dodgers. They're back at it tomorrow.
You have to throw in the Angels loss too. It gets us a little closer to Ohtani.
Yeah. Are you okay? You're covering some Angels stuff over there. You gonna be all right?
Hey, I'm all just for the chaos with the Angels. That makes it fun.
Yeah, Angels lose 2-1. They had a 1-0 lead. Ohtani, as expected, 6 innings, 2 hits, nowhere, and 10 strikeouts, and the Angels lose. That's fantastic. It's just classic. Trout 0 for 3 though. That guy sucks apparently. So maybe they could trade for him instead. Let's just package it all. $1 billion for Trout and Ohtani, and just take everybody, the whole farm system, and call it good.
That might be what Moreno takes if you can get $1 billion to him.
Yeah. Hey, we'll do it. What do we got to sign to? I just mean Trout's already got the 400 million or whatever signed up. Ohtani's going to go for over 6, they're saying. So add it together. We'll take the $1 billion in salary, and you can have the entire number one farm system. Just whoever you want. Just give us 7 names. They're yours, except for James Outman. None of the guys already at the major league level. Outman's not going anywhere. So, well, folks, we appreciate you joining us. Again, this has been the DodgerHeads live post-game show presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. If you are not already, please subscribe, ring the notification bell here on YouTube. If you're a podcast person and listening to this after the fact, thank you. Please subscribe. You can follow our podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google. Just search for DodgerHeads. And also, if you're not already, go find Blake on Twitter by Blake Williams. You can find me at Jeff Spiegel. You can follow Dodger Blue at DodgerBlue1958 everywhere on social media, and DodgerBlue.com as well. Playback tomorrow. Be sure to join us. Playback.tv, DodgerBlue1958. We'll be there. Usually that opens up 5 to 10 minutes before the game starts. So another 7:10 start. Be there with us tomorrow, and we will be right back here for a live post-game show as well. That's Blake. My name's Jeff. Dodgers win 8-2, 1-0, undefeated, first place in the National League West. Go Dodgers.